Would Reverend George Kehoe please come up on stage? Father George Kehoe was born in Sydney in 1930. He loved sports as a kid, he loved sports as a young adult, and he still loves sports. He's one of the few people in North America who's found a way to stay involved despite his total devotion to his vocation as a Roman Catholic priest. He entered the seminary after graduating from St. Francis Xavier University in the early 50s. He worked as a parish priest for a few years and then returned to his alma mater where he spent the remainder of his professional life. Father Kehoe was a very private person. His friends all intimated that he had a dry sense of humor. I did find out that he enjoys sailing and owns his own boat. He used to be a salmon fisherman and in fact tied his own flies. He golfs, he's a gourmet cook, and I've been told by many that he's the worst driver in the province. When I asked his brother Frank about the accuracy of all these points, he admitted to the accuracy of most. He commented on the claim that he was a gourmet cook by saying, and I quote, "Oh yeah, he thinks he can cook Chinese." When I asked Father's brother about Father's driving, Father's brother told me that Father's father was the worst and that Father finished a close second. I'm told as well that he pilots his boat like he drives his car and that his boat has been grounded more than any other in a local yacht club. Since no one's ever left Cape Breton without a nickname, I assumed that there was one to be found in Father Kehoe's past as well. Bingo. He was known as Porgy Kehoe during the year when he was twice selected as the Student Athlete of the Year at Sydney Academy. In the game against Sydney senior team one night, a player from Sydney was taking a run at some of X's younger players. It was one of the few times that George Kehoe dropped his gloves. The result was that the bullying stopped and the enforcing was carried out for the rest of the season with a look or a word. In basketball, in 1947 and in 1948, his Sydney Academy team was Maritime Interscholastic champ. In 1949, his St. of X team was the Maritime Intercollegiate champ, and they also won the Canadian Intermediate Championship. In rugby, his Sydney Academy team was Maritime Interscholastic champ in 1947, and his St. of X team was Maritime Intercollegiate champ in 49 and in 50, and the following year they were also Eastern Canadian champs. I'm sure you can see why young George Kehoe found sports to be so exciting and totally rewarding. As I said, he could certainly be standing here as an athlete as well as a builder. If you're wondering how he could have played both basketball and hockey in university, it happened like this. He was recruited as a basketball player. He played 1 year, his freshman year, and then he played 3 years of hockey. When he returned to St. of X, some of his duties were in coaching from 62 to 69, and again from 72 to 75, he coached hockey. During his tenure, his teams compiled a 111, 16, and 4 record. They won the AUAAs 4 times. Among the many highlights he can reflect on was the time his Chargers beat the eventual Memorial Cup champions, the Toronto Marlboros, and another time when his team beat Boston University, the eventual national NCAA champions of the United States. Father Kehoe was Dean of Men at X from 1961 to 68. He took over the athletic director's role in 1968 and has performed that function ever since. He was instrumental in getting a physical education degree program at X. He's presently the president of the Atlantic University Athletic Association, a position he's held on 3 occasions. He was the vice president of the Canadian Intercollegiate Athletic Union from 1980 to 1982. It's so easy to list these many years of service to sport in Nova Scotia, this service to the other maritime provinces, and this service to the nation. It was quite another thing to fulfill these functions. He's called a padre by some of his cooler students. Doc Ryan, a St. of X alumnus, in an MC capacity once invited the padre to the mic to say a few words. Doc asked the padre to give him 5. offering his open hand high above his head. The Padre told the audience he'd give Doc 5 if they'd bless the flesh. Those in attendance told Doc that the Padre had burned him bad. Father Kehoe was inducted in the St. FX Sport Hall of Fame in 1983. Tonight we induct him into the Nova Scotia Sport Heritage Center's Hall of Fame because of his much appreciated lifetime of effort on behalf of sport in Nova Scotia. Ladies and gentlemen, Father George Joseph Kehoe.
I'd like to ask Skit Ferguson, the selection committee representing the Highland region. Father Kehoe, some of the athletes who have been on the stage before you have talked about their accomplishments as an athlete. As a builder, tell us about the satisfaction you get in seeing your teams do well.
Well, it's certainly gratifying to see teams succeed. It's also gratifying to see athletes come together as a team and to do their best. And if their best is good enough to win, it's a bonus. If not, as long as they've done the best, it's very, very pleasing.
How important is that message, is it, to get through? Because so often we're caught up in the winning at all costs attitude.
Well, I think you have to say that the object of any game is to win, or we wouldn't keep score. You have to try. Sometimes it's harder on the so-called managerial end than it is on the team end if your teams aren't successful. But I think in a person's gut, as they say, if they've done their best, that's all that can be expected of them. As I say, if you can do your best and your best is good enough to win, it's wonderful.
You've been involved with so many winning teams, successful teams. Can you think of a particular team which would have gone beyond their potential?
Well, I think the 1952 St. FX hockey team was the best hockey team I ever played on, and I think if we had been given an opportunity to go farther, that we could have.
Are you really all that bad a driver?
Not at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the newest member of the Nova Scotia Sports Hall of Fame, Father George Kehoe.